You wake up. You can't move. The air is heavy, like something is pressing down on your chest. Then you see him, standing in the corner, motionless, watching. A tall figure draped in shadow, his face hidden beneath the brim of a wide, dark hat. He doesn't speak. He doesn't breathe. But you know he's there. He's been seen in nightmares, in waking terror, in places where the light never reaches. A demon? A traveler from beyond? Or something far older, something that feeds on fear itself. You can shut your eyes, but it won't matter, because once you've seen him, he never forgets you. For centuries, people across the world have seen him, felt him, feared him. Is he a nightmare? A demon? A visitor from another dimension? Or something far, far worse? This is Project Black Garden. The Oleander Files. A Monsters and Myths podcast. Season 1. Episode 12. File number 147. The Hat Man. I'm your host, Michael. Welcome to where your nightmares are real and they're waiting for you. Shall we begin? The Hat Man is a shadowy figure reported in paranormal encounters and urban legends. Often described as a dark silhouette wearing a wide-brimmed hat. He's considered a subset of the broader shadow people phenomenon and is linked to sleep paralysis, folklore, and even supernatural or extraterrestrial theories. The Hat Man origins have been reported for centuries across different cultures, but his rise to widespread awareness came with the internet and paranormal communities in the late 20th and early 21st century. Unlike other shadow people, who often appear amorphous, the Hat Man is usually described as tall, wearing an old-fashioned fedora, top hat, and sometimes cowboy hat. Some accounts also mention a trench coat with glowing red eyes. Now, this monster can be traced back to European folklore, as shadowy figures resembling the Hat Man appear in many of their tales across Europe, often tied to omens, the dead, or supernatural watchers. The old hag of sleep paralysis lore in England and Newfoundland is a similar entity, though less defined. Middle Eastern jinn mythology. Some of their cultures believe he could be a jinn, a supernatural being that exists in a parallel plane and sometimes interacts with humans. Modern paranormal and sleep paralysis theories lead to the Hat Man is frequently encountered during episodes of violent sleep paralysis, a condition in which a person wakes up but cannot move. In many cases, people report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread, as if something malevolent is watching them. The Hat Man is also associated with this experience, leading to theories that he could be a hallucination produced by the brain in a paralyzed state. However, some claim to have seen him while fully awake, leading to alternative theories, such as an interdimensional being, Some believe the Hat Man is a traveler from another dimension, appearing in our reality either accidentally or intentionally. A demonic entity. Certain religious or spiritual perspectives argue that the Hat Man is demonic in nature, feeding off of fear and craving your death. The time traveler or extraterrestrial. Some UFO enthusiasts speculate that he is either a time traveler or part of an alien race observing humanity. The Hat Man is one of the most widely reported shadow entities, blurring the line between sleep paralysis-induced hallucinations, ancient folklore, and genuine paranormal encounters. Whether psychological or supernatural, the consistency of reports across cultures and centuries makes him one of the most compelling figures in modern mythology. And I have a feeling, listeners, you will be surprised by the truth of the Hat Man. According to my great uncle's journal, he's so much more than what has been written about him. My great uncle Sam was married only once, and from what I've been told, he loved her completely. The sun rose and set with her, but he knew his job, the secrets, the time away, it would be too much. But he tried his best to make it work. But he always had a nagging feeling that there was something else more in play with the end of his marriage. And it goes back to when his ex-wife, Mara, was a teenager living in rural North Carolina, and an impossible experience she had that summer that changed her forever. And this is the story she told my great uncle Sam. It was another humid July in North Carolina. The cicadas screamed outside with an endless buzz. Mara had just turned 14 the month before, just after school had let out for summer. But lately, she had found it hard to sleep at night. She'd lay wide awake in bed, sweat sticking her sheets to her skin. But sadly, it wasn't the heat keeping her awake. It was him. Ever since her 14th birthday, she had seen him every night. It always started the same. She'd wake suddenly, like someone had shouted her name right in her ear. She couldn't move. She couldn't scream. Her room, always lit faintly by the moon, would somehow feel darker, heavier. Then she'd see him, standing in the far corner where her dresser sat. Tall, silent, wearing a black hat that shadowed a face she could never quite see. The first night she saw him, she thought it was a dream. The second time, she swore she saw his coat move, billowing, though there was no breeze. On the third night, when she finally managed to break out of paralysis, she heard him whisper as he vanished, "You looked at me." Terrified, Mara told her mom, who brushed it off as a vivid imagination and too much TV. But Mara knew better. She felt him watching, even now in the light of day. So on the next night, she hatched a plan. She grabbed her dad's Polaroid camera, taped the shutter button down and propped it on her nightstand, rigging it with small fishing wire that when she tugged on it, would take a picture. She left a fresh cartridge in, then went to bed, with every nerve buzzing like static. And like clockwork, around 3 a.m, she woke again, frozen, eyes locked on the corner. And there he was. He was closer this time, his hat low, shoulders impossibly wide. His outline shifted like smoke pretending to be solid. Red embered eyes flickered beneath the brim. Mara twitched her finger, and the camera clicked. The light strobed through the room for just an instant. And for the first time, the Hat Man moved. He jerked his head toward the camera, then without stepping, was suddenly at the foot of her bed. Mara's heart stopped. Her body still refused to move. His black presence sucked the oxygen from the room, and from beneath the dark rim of his hat, his voice spread through the room like wind through broken glass as he said, "It won't work." Mara ignored his threat and clicked another picture. The Polaroid quickly slid out onto her dresser. Mara closed her eyes and tugged on the string, again taking another picture, and then another, and then another. And when she opened her eyes, he was gone. She fell back in her bed, dazed, surrendering to the sleep that had escaped her. Morning came, and the sun was shining, but it felt wrong. She sat up, shaking, flipping through her Polaroids. Most were dim, hazy shots of her room, cloaked in darkness, except for one. She gasped. The photo was warped, overexposed around the edges, but dead center was a black figure in a menacing hat, his face shaded from the light. But when you looked closer, he was smiling, a wide smile with far too many teeth. One of his hands was outstretched toward the camera. The other hand was pressed against her bedside wall. Behind him, the room wasn't her bedroom. It was something else. Burned wood with a gaping hole in the floor, and eyes staring from the shadows. She immediately ran into the other room to show her parents, but they didn't believe her. They said she staged it. Her dad tried to take the picture, but she pulled it from him and ran. She spent the day hiding at the edge of the woods, debating on what she should do, and if she could even go back home. But in the end, she did return home without much fuss from her mother or father. That night, she didn't sleep. She didn't dare. She placed the Polaroid underneath her pillow and waited for daylight. But the next morning, she found that the Polaroid was no longer under her pillow. It was pinned against her bedside wall, and scratched across the bottom of it was the words, "You're mine." She spent the rest of that summer in North Carolina, waking up every night at 3. Sometimes she saw him, sometimes she didn't, but she always woke up. And this horrible nightmare followed her into adulthood, even when she met a young, handsome soldier and got married and tried to start a family. And if it hadn't been for all the mysteries and craziness and impossible creatures that my great Uncle Sam dealt with on a daily basis, he may not have believed his tortured wife. As the days passed, she no longer saw the Hat Man every night. But during the summer, she'd wake up the same time at 3:12 a.m. and she couldn't move as she would watch the shadows at the foot of her bed as if they were holding their breath, waiting for the Hat Man to show himself. Now, after my great uncle Sam and Mara divorced, he knew there was much more to the separation than some phantom in a fedora, but he could never get the thought out of the back of his head that maybe the Hat Man had more to do with this than he previously thought. He followed leads, talked to other eyewitnesses who have said they were haunted by the same man, but he could never find anything to really prove his existence other than that old, beat-up Polaroid that Mara left. Now, that Polaroid is one of the photos that were tucked in the back of this particular journal, but it's been so degraded by time and the way it was stored to make out definitive features, which kind of bummed me out. But as I was staring at this old Polaroid, I remembered a time when I was a kid, and we used to sit in the closet, me and my friends, and we used to try to scare each other by telling the most scary stories. And during one of those sessions, one of my friends, Carrie, suggested we play the game Bloody Mary. So we all ran to the bathroom, turning out the lights, and began our first ever session of the game Bloody Mary. For those of you who don't know the game, here's a quick Project Black Garden tutorial. As you stand in front of the mirror in the dark, it's suggested that you hold hands, but you don't have to. And you chant Bloody Mary over and over again until she appears in the mirror. Now, depending on the people around you and where you're at, dictates what exactly happens when and if she shows up in the mirror. And I remember a few of my friends always insisting that they saw her, and when I saw nothing. But it was fun. But one time, two of my friends insisted that they saw Bloody Mary. And when they described him, one of them described the typical woman, long hair, bloody eyes, screaming, etc. But my other friend, he looked confused and said, "That's not what I see. She's wearing a hat." And I remember all of us laughing at him, thinking, "A hat? What are you talking about?" He's all, "Yeah, she had a hat and she had red eyes." We chalked it up to his imagination or him just trying to have a better story than the other friend. But he always insisted that he saw a shadow wearing a hat with glowing red eyes. And I've always wondered, but now, looking at this long lost photo, I think maybe he was right. So, out of respect for my great uncle, I think I just might continue his search for the elusive Hat Man. Now, there's some news in my world that I don't know if is good or bad, but the mysterious gray van that I've been playing cat and mouse with for months now has seemed to disappear. Now, I figured it might have had to do something with me trying to go public with the television studio and watching all that info get wiped out, and come to find the reporter who had left her job after interviewing me was in a mysterious car accident last week. From what I understand, she survived, but at this time was still unconscious in the ICU. But yesterday morning, I woke up to the sound of something that wasn't familiar to me at all. It was a buzz or light humming just outside my front window. I grabbed my baseball bat, the Peacemaker, and headed out front as I made my way into the morning sun. Hovering above my house was a black drone with 3 blinking green lights. And as soon as I looked up at it, it did a 180, flew straight into the air, and disappeared. As for now, I'm going to chalk it up to one of my neighbor's kids just got one of the coolest birthday presents, and not that I'm being spied on. Now, this week, we have a quick listener email from one of our fellow gardeners, Donald. He just wanted to say that he enjoys the podcast. He can't wait to see what we talk about next. And he volunteered to be my first guest. Now, if any of you would like to partake in being a guest on the show, I'll have to work out some logistics. But I'm game. It could be fun. And I would love to hear your stories live on air. So reach out. We'll see what happens. Now, this is crazy for me to say, but I cannot believe we are on the eve of episode 13. I've decided the season will end with episode 13. Don't worry, I'm planning a second season. And I've saved one of the best journal entries for last. So be here next time when I introduce you to zombies. I'm your host, Michael. This is Project Black Garden, a Monsters and Myths podcast. Season 1, The Oleander Files. Please share this with all your friends and fellow skeptics, and stream this podcast on all your favorite streaming sites. And we'll see you next time. Remember, as always, monsters are very, very real. And sometimes they love a nice hat.